Hello, everybody. Good to spend time with you today. I want to talk about being a good person and what it takes to be a good person. I also want to talk about why it's important that we're good, that we do decent and honorable things, and how it translates into having an organization that does good as well. Whenever we talk about a good person or being better, we should look at a guide. I came up with one called BOATS, BOATES. Of course, we know both isn't spelled that way, but I had to get an E in there. So that's where the E comes in. It's a small E because it doesn't spell and work with boats. I think it works okay. We'll see how it goes. Boats. So if I was to promote what somebody can do to become a good person, what would I say a person should do? They should do the best with what they have. They should have options in life because nothing lasts. They should always look for the good along the road of life. They should remember they have to live that life. They have to be extraordinarily kind. And they have to go down swinging for who you are and for what you stand for. That's what a person needs to do to become a good person. Are there others? Of course. Should some be as important as others? Of course. Should some we should eliminate? Of course. But I try to keep it as brief as possible, but also as representative as possible. That's where BOATS comes from. Each one we're going to talk about. Hopefully, at the end, you'll say, that's pretty good. I think I'm going to do a couple of those, if not all. At least that's the hope. So let's start with doing the best with what you have. There's so many sayings I have in relation to doing the best with what you have, making the most of what you have. It starts with every deck has the same cards, but no two players get those same cards. There's 52 decks, or 52 cards in a deck, but no one gets the same cards. Same analogy. But what we do need to do is make the most of the cards that we get. No one gets the same cards, but they have to make the most of the cards they get. That's the saying I remember the most. I remember thinking of John F. Kennedy Jr. and thinking, wow, that person had everything. And at the end, he really didn't. But at one point, we think, wow, they really did have it all. There's so many people, whether in sports or movies, that you look at and you go, wow, if I could only be that. Then we realize, once we learn more, that don't really want to be that. But what we want to be is the best with what we have. We want to do the most with what we have. If it's a painter, you want to be the best painter. If it's a speaker, you want to speak the best. This is about the third time I've done this presentation, by the way. Hopefully it gets better every time. We also realize that education and experience and skill may not play a role in the cards we're dealt, but they do play a role in the way cards are played. So we use our education, our experience, our skill, our contacts, our networking, whatever it may be, we use those to do the best with what we have. And at the end of this game that we call life, wouldn't it be great to just walk up to somebody and say, you know, I did the best with what I had. I couldn't do any better. I couldn't play the game any better. I just did the best. I think most of us would walk away from just about any situation if we could say, you know, I gave it my all. I came up short, but I gave it my all. One thing I think about when I think about doing the best with what you have is that nobody has it all. Kings, of course, have their palaces, and presidents have their glory. Movie stars their fame, and the wealthy, of course, have their fortune. Yet few leave this world without a devastating failure, a relationship ending unexpectedly, a friend gone too soon, even an opportunity wasted. No one has it all. No one has the happiest attitude, the perfect children, the faultless life, the great job. There is a level of dejection, disappointment, regret, and unhappiness in just about everyone we meet. I remember Ronald Reagan, at the height of his powers, got Alzheimer's. J. Paul Getty was the richest person in the world at one time. Yet his family, there was a thread of drugs and suicide throughout so many generations of that family. There was Heath Ledger and the artist Prince and Philip Seymour Hoffman, all Academy Award winners, all died too young. Fame, fortune, intelligence, talent, health, and beauty, may not be distributed equally, but they are distributed fairly. While no one has it all, everyone has something. There's the saying that says that everyone has something, and what you do with that something can make you a somebody. I came up with that. Don't know if it's good, but I like it. It reminds us that everybody has something. Leads us to the O in boats, which is options. I remember Winston Churchill winning World War II, reading about it, of course. But then shortly after, he was voted out of office. Amazing. Margaret Thatcher, one of my heroes, was the 20th century's longest-serving prime minister in Britain. Then she was sacked by her own party. I remember listening to her. She gave a speech, and I got a chance to meet her. She's an amazing human being. No matter how great she was, and she's known as one of the greatest, her own party said, "We've had enough of you." President Nixon won a landslide election in 1972. Unbeatable. But he was impeached 2 years later. Rightfully so, but impeached 2 years later. We have some countries that ruled their world at one time. Italy in the 300s, Spain in the 1500s, Britain in the 1800s, the United States in the 1900s. Now we're looking at China. The U.S. once dominated so many industries, from medicines to weapons to technology to computers to the internet. Now all of a sudden, the economic dominance is moving towards China. We'll see how it ends. Those without options are often resigned to an uneventful present and often a dependent future, dependent on the goodwill of others. Never be dependent on others for your destiny. Make the choices that determine your own destiny. Because we have far greater control of our future than most believe. We have control over whether to study or play, to work or relax, to invest or spend, to participate or contribute, to take or give back. Those choices determine our destiny. They determine our future. And the more options that we have in life, the more choices that we have to determine where that future takes us. Because those options give you opportunities. Those opportunities give you possibilities. And those possibilities give you hope. And if you want hope in your life, you've got to have options with your choices. If you only have one choice in life, that's the choice you need to take. If it's, I have to stay in this job because I have nothing else, then you have to do everything that you can to stay in that job. Even if you have to do something that may be borderline unethical or may not be right. We don't want to have that situation. We want to be able to say, no, I don't have to make that choice. I have others that I can choose from. Being a good person depends on being able to have those choices in life. So we've looked at being the best that you can by doing the best with what you have. We've looked at having options in life. And that takes us to the third aspect, is that they have to live that life. Let's back up and do the A first. Always look for the good along the road of life. Anybody who receives an email from me, which is the A in boats, anybody who receives an email from me knows that I always end my email with always look for the good along the road of life. I've learned years ago that there's really two paths in life. Of course, there may be more, but two paths. There's the path that you should take, the path that you could take. And along those paths determines a certain attitude that one has. If you follow the gray cements of the road versus the green grasses along the side of the road, it determines, in some ways, your attitude, your perceptions, the way you think and believe about yourself and about your life. I choose to travel along the grass. It's more comforting. It's more pleasurable to look at. And it puts you in a much more fantastic mood. Often what you see. Some people see paintings, and other people see beauty in the future and the possibilities. So much of this life is how you look at it. Some believe it's a cold and vindictive world. There's more lies than truth, more enemies than friends, more selfishness than generosity. That's how they choose to see their life. Others believe in a life that is much different in the basic decency and graces of their fellow human beings. There's more good cheer and goodwill through the corners in which we travel than evil. And they also see where we can contribute our unique talents and spirits to make something or someone better. Yes, the more admired person is the one who believes more in hope and good than evil. They believe in goodness as opposed to despair. And remember that no matter who we are, what we do, who we meet, or where we go, there is good along the roads we travel if only we choose to look for it. There's that word, choose. So much of life really is about choices, right? And the more choices we have, the better chance we can make a choice that'll improve better the paths that we travel. So that is always look for the good. And that does take us to the T. And that is Chance the Rapper, one of the people I admire. And I'll tell you why in a second. T stands for they have to live that life. We often meet the most kind, generous, and giving people. There's Wendy Kopp, who founded Teach for America, which is a foundation placed in teachers into urban schools. What a great ambition that Wendy had, and she actually saw it through. She's placed over 10,000 college graduates in over 35 countries. Chance the Rapper won a Grammy, multi-millionaire, but he also founded Social Works to empower youth to do something positive with their life. When we talk about they have to live that life, look at what Wendy did and Chance the Rapper. There's others at the other end of the scale, though. We sometimes meet the most deceitful and dishonest people, the disingenuous comments and baseless claims that flow from others towards us. The challenge is often how we react to those who've wronged us, who've lied about our character, betrayed our trust, maligned our reputation, and been deceitful about their ambitions. The first instinct always is to respond in kind, to settle any score, to inflict similar harm. But we become the betrayer, the maligner, and the deceiver. Exactly the type of person performing the exact type of actions that we once deemed unfair and unjust. A good person, instead, treats others better than they were treated. They respond to lies with the truth, with jealousy, with understanding. They respond to envy with compassion. Hate. They don't hate. They follow that with friendship. And they follow evil with goodness. Not an easy thing to do. I myself have been maligned. And you also want to strike back. You want to settle the score, as we mentioned earlier. But if you remember just 5 little words, it'll change the very nature of your life. If you just remember, let them live that life. I remember the story out of South Africa when Nelson Mandela got out of prison. And he was there for 27 years. And the first thought was, get them back for what they did to him. And he came out and said, no. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in retaliation. I believe in reconciliation. Not his words, but those are the summary of what he believed. And it was an absolutely amazing mark of a man to say, no, I don't want to make the past right by going after people who did evil things to me. I'm going to be better. Let them live that life. I'm going to be better. It's an amazing circumstance. He lived an amazing life. Amazing man. Takes us to the E in boats. To be extraordinarily kind. I'm a huge fan of kindness. If you were to look at my desk, there's a sign that says, work hard, be kind, and never give up. If you're kind, it gives you so many advantages in life. What does that mean, so many advantages in life? I've seen people who may not do their job as well as it could do, but they're extraordinarily kind to just about everybody they meet. And you get the quote-unquote but analogies, which means, yeah, they don't do their job as well, but they're so friendly. They're so nice. They're so neat to have around. And I've seen people in their lives who may not be the best, but they strive for the best. And along that line that they travel, they also spread good cheer and goodwill to just about everybody they meet. They look for the good in everybody that they see. And they try, as best they can, they try to do good in every single facet of duties or tasks that they take. They're amazing people. And they get a lot of what I call do-overs simply by the way they live their life and the way that they interact with nearly everybody that they meet. To be extraordinarily kind. Kindness is more than just a hello and a goodbye. It's a how are you, and you really mean it. It's helping people along their way, even if the way that they travel may not be the way that you travel. Extraordinary kind is absolutely critical to being a good person. And that takes us to the end. To go down swinging for who you are and for what you believe in. Some do little or nothing, living a life of abandoned dreams and lost opportunities. Often where cowardice replaces courage, where paralyzed minds are paired with traumatized souls. Good line, right? I came up with that. Others are a solitary breed, unusually possessed of a steely determination to bear any burden, pay any price, endure every criticism, often against unsurmountable odds and undefeatable circumstances, to fight injustice, to battle hatred, and to confront evil. One only needs to think about Martin Luther King Jr., who battled most his life against the injustices of race. He thought we could be better. He thought we could do better. And he was willing to give up his life, which he did, to see if there was something that he could do to at least address some of that. He was a good man. Susan B. Anthony, likewise, many of us can't imagine a time that women weren't treated as well as they could have been. But to read history, and history is a great example of the way previous generations lived. History tells the story of how women weren't treated as well, and Susan B. Anthony, amongst many others, thought that wasn't right, that we could do, yes, and be, yes, better. Rise or fall, succeed or fail, win or lose, these few overcame the adversity, criticisms, and fear to create a world in which we inhabit today. They never abdicated their belief or abandoned their hope that if they went down swinging, they could be someone better and create something better. Fear. Fear is a terrible word. The fear of failure and the fear of what other people think has destroyed the ambitions of most people. Never let fear destroy your ambitions. I remember that the characteristic that separates the victor from the loser, the consequential from the insignificant, the good from the great, is the determination to go down swinging for what you stand for. I want to read it again. It's pretty good. The characteristic that separates the victor from the loser, the consequential from the insignificant, and the good from the great, is the determination to go down swinging for what you believe in. If you can believe in goodness and then go down swinging for it, can you imagine how the world would be so much different? One other point. This has been, hopefully, a good presentation. This has been, hopefully, one that may be inspiring. That's certainly my ambition. Whether I achieve it or not is up for debate. That's the hope. But at the end of this game, which we'll call this presentation, I'm just hoping that everybody does something. We've learned how to be, in my opinion, a good person. That doesn't have to be your opinion, though. But I've given you a couple of strategies to consider to be a good person. Here's where the nexus comes in. If you're a good person, maybe others will be. If others are a good person, maybe a community will. Maybe even a state. Amazingly, maybe a country. If we all do something to be good and do good, can you imagine what the repercussions could be? Can you imagine working in an organization? If you're an employee or a supervisor or a manager, and you're a good person because you've learned some strategies to be a good person, you can then do something good. The last slide is about doing something good. It's good to be, but it's better to do. We can't do everything, but we can do something. We can build a reputation and establish a legacy of a person who's decent and honorable, who tries to do what is good and what is right, who's willing to sacrifice everything, with the hope to make something better. Because at the end of our days, there's few better stories of a life well lived, other than they tried to do something good with what they had, and they made a difference with their time on earth. Thanks, everybody. I hope you become someone good and that you do something great. Enjoy the day.